Welcome back to the Ripewave audio community. My name is John, and for this video, we will begin to integrate our subwoofers into our system by setting the crossover frequency. To do this, we are going to see where the main speakers drop more than 3 dBs, and that will be approximately the crossover point, but we'll make sure that there isn't any room mode problems at that frequency and determine where this is going to be. Is it going to be the standard 80 Hertz, or a little higher, or a little lower? Now, these Polk LSI speakers, the LSI 15s that we're using, were advertised to go down much lower than 80 dBs, but we suspect that that was more advertising than reality. So we're going to measure these again. I know I've done this in a prior video. I do invite you to look at the other videos with the Rythmik Audio F18s, as well as our Room Measurements series on the REW Room Equalization Wizard software. And we will once again use REW to do our measurements. And to test the speakers, we're going to run this again. And I know we've done this on prior videos where we measured the front speakers. We're going to do it again because we've got better at measurements. And it's so easy to measure these. Why not measure and measure again just to make sure you have things right? And to do this, we are setting up the microphone again at a 90-degree position. This time it is going to be 1 foot from the center of the mid-ranges, which happens to be where the tweeter is. This is a radial ring tweeter on this. And we'll take this measurement. And I've actually already done this, and I'm sharing my screen here with you. And I've done it at 2 different volumes. I've done it at the 75 dB levels with a pink noise. Got that level set at 75 dBs. Did one set of measurements, and I did the measurement again at 100 dBs just to see if the volume made a difference in the frequency response. Generally, this is behaving very similar between whether we're doing at 75 dBs or 100 dBs. And what we're seeing here is that indeed at the 75, I was actually measuring a little higher than that. I'm closer to 77 dBs. And where that starts to trail off is around the 70 Hertz range. It starts to drop off there. And this is similar to what we see with at the 100 dBs, around 70 Hertz. So if we drop down 3 dBs, and whether we're doing it on one or the other, we're looking at, and we said it was 77, so I'm going to drop this one down to about where does it hit 74? And that's approximately, we're looking at the right scale, 74 dBs there, about there, which is 63 Hertz, 63.4 Hertz. And on this other one at 100 dB levels, coming down from where we're at 100 to 97, we're going to see that this is around, well, the first inflection point, 62. So we had 62 for that one, and 64 for the other one. So we know that the processor we have only does it on 10 dB increment, on 10 Hertz increments. So I would probably err to cross this. Well, it's going to be somewhere between 60 and 70. So I think we're going to set it first maybe at 60, take some measurements from the main listening position, and see if it's better at 60 Hertz or 70 Hertz for the crossover frequency. Now for the subwoofers, we're not using the crossover adjustments in the subwoofer. We're going to come into the subwoofers on this particular model, the Rythmik Audio F18. We're going to come into the LFE input, which by default defaults, or there's no choice, you can't run the crossovers if you're coming in that way. But you have more of a full range. So I think we're going to go that way, adjust it through the processor, and see what our results are. All right, for this first pass, I have set the processor for 70 Hertz. I'm going to start there. This particular processor also has a LFE High Cutoff setting. We're to leave that at standard. Looking at the manual on the Sony TAE 9000 ES, the standard means 120 Hertz. That sounds like a good place to do the cutoff where the subwoofer is going to stop. And let's reposition this microphone now over the main listening position. And from the other, I won't turn the camera here, but it's going to be our main listening position out in front and center of the speakers. All right, with the microphone in position, let's rerun this. I don't think there's any need to go up to 100 Hertz, so we can do this at 75. We're going to put the generator on to begin with the sound pressure meter, get our levels right. And we're going to do this measurement integrated. So the subs are going to be on, both the left and right speakers on, because I want to see how this is performing as a system now to make sure that we've got our crossover point at a good thing. And then we're going to try it at a different crossover point and see which is better. Let's take our measurements now. I've confirmed that both subwoofers are going, and we've got the front two channels running. We have our surrounds turned off. We just got the processor running in 2-channel mode. So this is a system with just the front mains and the 2 subs. And what we're going to do here is create a new measurement. This is our first measurement. We're going to then put some variable smoothing on. This is the orange line is as a system, and this as at 70 Hertz crossover. Now let's just adjust this now. Before I do that, I'm going to mark this as a system with front, left and right, plus dual subs. And then it's at 70 Hertz. So I'm going to run this again at 60 Hertz and see what the difference is. Leaving all the levels the same. And we'll do our variable smoothing again. And which is better? Looks pretty close. Let's zoom in here a little bit. I'm going to get rid of the front speakers alone, and this is going to just look at the 2 systems graphs. It does seem a little better at 70. Let me try it again just out of curiosity at 80 Hertz. But before I do, I'm going to document this in REW, this chart, so we'll remember what the setting was. So that was 60. Let's do again at 80. These graphs are so tight. What I'm going to do now is rerun all these measurements and do it so, because this is very hard to see, but if I look at the last one, it does seem better at 80 than 70 or 60. But I'm going to try this again, all 3 of them, probably start at 60 this time, and have the end frequency. Let's just do this just up to 200 Hertz. And then that might give us a better range. This is 60 hertz again. I'm going to get rid of the prior sweeps. So this pen is at 60 hertz. I'll put that label in here with the extra note that, not 20, 60. The extra note that we're now just running at 0 to 200 hertz sweep. And we can tighten up the scale on the x-axis so we can see a little bit better. Yeah. Let's set it at 70 now. Okay, so there's a little difference here. So this was 60, I'm highlighting 60 here. And we're getting a little bit better performance when we go to 70. Let's see. We're just going to keep bringing this up in 10-degree increments as allowed by the processor. So we'll do it again. And before we do that, we're going to make sure we label. So this is 70. Let's do it one more time. Still looking better. Just out of curiosity, we're going to try this again at 90 hertz. Now this is starting to drop down. It's interesting the variations after the crossover point. I would expect to see more beforehand. This is 90 hertz. Let's center this in a little bit. Zoom in. I want to make sure I'm seeing this right. So the crossover at 90. Let's try even going higher. Let's try crossing over at 100. All right, that's 100 hertz. See, I don't think I want to go that far because this is starting to perform less between 80 and 100. That seems to be a little too far. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here. You can see this. So if this is 100, and we're looking at these, comparing these three here, that's 100. That's less. Here's 90. At 90, we don't care about what's above there. Get rid of 90 there for a second. This one's 80. So at 80, we don't care what's here. Let's scroll this down here a little bit. So what's going up in this business here? So if this is 80, and this is 90, I kind of like 90 hertz, which is surprising. These speakers are full towers. They are advertised to go below 40, but these subwoofers are so good, we might be better crossing those over around 90. So we're going to try that. I think 100 is too much. Put 100 back in here. Well, it looks better to some degree. It is getting worse below 100. So I think we're going to be better to do it like that. So we're going to try 90 hertz, and that's setting our crossovers. Just out of curiosity, I am going to set the front speakers to full, the surrounds to small, but have both subwoofers on. And right now the crossover is set at 90 hertz, and see how that compares against 90 hertz the other way. So let's try this. So this last one, and I'm going to take off everything except for the two measurements at 90 hertz. So this will be, so that's 90 hertz in purple. That's with the front speakers set to small. So this is speaker set to small. Let's back up so we can see a little bit more of this. And so this is the front speakers set to small. And if you set the front speakers to large, look at how it drops right off. And there's where the problem lies. So certainly setting it to small makes a huge difference. Definitely the setting the front speakers to small produces what you want to see, which is the purple trace, this upper one. And then this lower one, the green one, you don't get the advantages of the subwoofers. The next test I'm going to run is to set the LFE High Cutoff to 200 hertz versus the default standard cutoff of 120 and see what a difference that makes. Let's reposition this. I don't think there's much of a difference here on whether we set the low frequency cutoff at 120 versus it's very close here. Maybe zoom in right about here between 100 and 120 and 200 hertz. And that's a little too far zoomed in. Yeah, about there. So what we're looking at is, to be honest, with the subwoofers set to 200 hertz is better, but the problem you might start to find, even though this is looking better from a stereo imaging, it may start to throw off your stereo imaging. So the low frequency cutoff of 120, I don't think this is making that much of a difference. And I don't want to have the situation where the directional cues are starting to be thrown off because I've got the subs running too high. So I think 120, I think I'm going to stick with that, even though I got a little higher levels at 200 hertz. And to go the other way, I'm setting the LFE High Cutoff now at 100 hertz with the crossover frequency at 90. Very similar, I would say. Let's take a look at how that's dipping down there. This is a problem here at a 156. Maybe has something to do with the room. It seems like the 120 is doing it stronger. It's a better trace there at the standard 120. So getting that LFE high set right is important as well. So that wraps it up. We're going to keep taking measurements, keep playing with this. It may take a while before we hit a point where we're really comfortable about it. But my advice is to do lots of measurements, do lots of comparisons. Try it as a system, try it individually, and until a point where you feel like you're getting the best response. Like to get your feedback on what you're doing, what techniques you're using to set the crossover point for your speakers. Do you just go with the industry standard of 80 hertz, or do you play around with this? That feedback would be useful to the Ripewave audio community. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to this Ripewave audio community And be sure to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified the next time a video is posted. Until then, keep evolving your audio experience.